A millionaire real estate mogul walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom wearing a $5,000 designer outfit, and within 60 seconds she makes a statement so insulting, so breathtakingly disrespectful that even seasoned court officers freeze in shock. What happens next isn't just a court ruling, it's a masterclass in why wealth cannot shield you from accountability and why some insults demand absolute justice. Before we reveal the devastating consequences of Victoria Ashford's moment of arrogance, I need you to hit that subscribe button right now because we're racing towards 600,000 subscribers, and this story about respect, consequences, and the justice system defending its dignity will remind you why courtrooms remain the last place where money means nothing and character means everything. If this story makes you believe that judicial respect is non-negotiable, leave a comment below because by the end of this video, you'll understand why Judge Caprio's response became legendary. Here's a question. When did our society forget that some people deserve respect? Not because of their bank account, but because of what they represent. Because what happened to Victoria Ashford proves that contempt of court isn't just a legal term. It's a line you never ever cross, no matter how many zeros are in your net worth. Tuesday morning, 9:30 a.m., Providence Municipal Court. The bailiff whispers urgently to Judge Caprio before the session begins. Your Honor, this defendant has been difficult with court staff, dismissive, condescending. She demanded we reschedule because she had a conference call. The judge nods, understanding that this hearing might require extra patience. The citation reads, Victoria Ashford, age 52, cited for running a red light with aggravating circumstances. The officer's notes mention pedestrian nearly struck. Defendant refused to provide license, stated her lawyer handles these matters. Victoria Ashford enters the courtroom like she's walking onto a stage where she's both director and star. The Valentino suit fits perfectly, tailored to emphasize success. Diamond earrings catch the fluorescent lights. Her Air Hermes handbag, worth more than most people's monthly salary, hangs from her wrist. But it's not the luxury that fills the room. It's the attitude, the way she doesn't bother looking at anyone directly, the way her phone screen glows in her hand, more important than the proceedings, the way she sighs as if this entire process is beneath her dignity. Judge Caprio looks up with his characteristic warmth, the kindness that has made him beloved by millions. Miss Ashford, good morning. Please approach the bench. Victoria walks forward slowly, thumb still moving across her phone screen. She doesn't respond to the greeting. The courtroom packed with people waiting for their own cases. Immediately senses something wrong. An elderly woman in the third row leans toward her neighbor, whispering concern. Miss Ashford, Judge Caprio tries again, his voice still gentle but firmer. I need your full attention. Please put your phone away. Victoria finally looks up, her expression making clear that she's doing him a favor. It's Miss Ashford, not Mrs. I didn't marry for a name, Your Honor. I built my own empire. The correction comes with an edge, as if the judge has somehow insulted her by assuming marriage to find her success. She slides the phone into her bag with deliberate slowness, the gesture saying she'll comply, but only because she chooses to, not because he asked. Judge Caprio maintains his composure. Miss Ashford, you're here regarding a traffic citation, running a red light on Benefit Street. How do you plead? Victoria shifts her weight, one hand on her hip. Look, I'm managing a $12 million commercial deal right now. Can we expedite this? I have actual important matters waiting. The word actual lands like a slap. She's just told a judge in open court that his courtroom isn't important. The gallery reacts immediately. Quiet gasps, heads shaking. A man in a work uniform crosses his arms, his expression hardening. Judge Caprio's tone remains professional, but something shifts in his posture. Miss Ashford, these proceedings are important. They concern public safety and the rule of law. Victoria actually scoffs. A red light. Your Honor, do you know how many jobs I create, how much tax revenue my company generates for this city? I employ over 300 people. My developments have revitalized entire neighborhoods. This citation is beneath me. She says it plainly without embarrassment. In her world, success equals exemption. The courtroom feels smaller. Suddenly, the air thicker. Judge Caprio picks up the file, reviewing it carefully while Victoria checks her watch, a gesture everyone notices. Miss Ashford, the law applies to everyone equally. Your business success doesn't change that. Victoria meets his eyes for the first time and her gaze is cold. With respect, Your Honor, in the real world, everything has a price. I've paid dozens of these tickets. Just tell me the fine and I'll have my assistant handle it. She's just reduced justice to a transaction, the courtroom to a payment window, and Judge Caprio to a cashier, and she has no idea what she's just set in motion. Judge Caprio sets the file down carefully, his movements measured. Miss Ashford, before we discuss fines, let's review the specifics of this violation. The citation indicates you ran a red light on Benefit Street at the intersection of Hope. The time was 3:15 p.m. Does that sound correct? Victoria waves her hand dismissively. If that's what the ticket says, fine. I don't remember every intersection I drive through. I have more important things occupying my mind than traffic signals. The judge continues, his voice steady. The officer's report indicates that when you were pulled over, you refused to provide your driver's license initially. Victoria's perfectly shaped eyebrows rise. I asked why I was being stopped. That's my constitutional right, isn't it? Or does that not apply to people who actually contribute to society? The jab is subtle but unmistakable. Several people in the gallery shift uncomfortably. A woman in business attire shakes her head slowly, embarrassed on Victoria's behalf. Judge Caprio remains calm. You absolutely have the right to ask why you were stopped, but according to Officer Ramirez, you told him, and I'm reading from his report here, that you don't carry your license because your lawyer handles all traffic matters and that his time was being wasted on someone of your stature. Victoria doesn't deny it. Her chin lifts slightly. I may have said something to that effect. I was late for a meeting that had been scheduled for weeks. The officer seemed more interested in flexing his authority than actual public safety. Your Honor, the prosecutor stands, a young woman with a stack of folders. May I approach? Judge Caprio nods. Judge. The prosecutor walks forward and hands him several documents. Your Honor, Miss Ashford's driving record shows 6 prior violations in the past 3 years. All were paid, but she has never appeared in court for any of them. Additionally, this particular violation has aggravating circumstances that weren't initially apparent. Judge Caprio examines the documents, his expression growing more serious. Miss Ashford, these prior violations include 2 speeding tickets, 3 red light violations, and 1 citation for reckless driving. That's a significant pattern. Victoria's voice rises slightly. A pattern of what? Living my life, driving to appointments. Every single one of those tickets was paid immediately. That's how the system works, doesn't it? You give tickets, I pay them, everyone's happy, that's the transaction. No, Miss Ashford, Judge Caprio's voice carries new weight. That is not how the system works. Each violation represents a moment when you endangered yourself and others. These aren't transactions, they're warnings that you've chosen to ignore. Victoria laughs, actually laughs, a short bitter sound. Warnings. Your Honor, I've been driving for 35 years. I'm an excellent driver. I've never caused an accident. These tickets are just revenue generation, and we both know it. The prosecutor speaks again. Your Honor, regarding the aggravating circumstances, the traffic camera footage shows that Miss Ashford ran the red light in what is designated as a school zone. The timestamp is 3:15 p.m., which is dismissal time for the elementary school on that block. A pedestrian, later identified as an elderly man, had to jump back onto the curb to avoid being struck by Miss Ashford's vehicle. The courtroom erupts and whispers. Judge Caprio raises his hand for silence. Miss Ashford, you ran a red light in a school zone during dismissal time. Victoria's jaw tightens. That school zone is ridiculous. It's only active for 30 minutes twice a day and causes massive traffic delays. And as for the pedestrian, if he was in the crosswalk when my light was red, that means he was jaywalking. Why isn't he getting a ticket? The gasps are louder this time. A mother holding a toddler stares at Victoria with open disbelief. An older gentleman mutters something under his breath. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. Miss Ashford, that man was in a designated crosswalk. He had the right of way. You ran a red light and nearly struck him. Do you understand the seriousness of what could have happened? Victoria crosses her arms. What could have happened didn't happen. I had complete control of my vehicle. The problem is that people don't pay attention. They wander into streets looking at their phones, expecting everyone else to accommodate their carelessness. Why should I be penalized because someone else wasn't careful? Judge Caprio leans forward. Miss Ashford, you ran the red light. You broke the law. The pedestrian did nothing wrong. Victoria's voice turns sharp. Your Honor, let me be frank. This whole proceeding is a waste of time. My time, your time, everyone's time. I'm a busy woman. I run a $40 million company. I make decisions every day that affect hundreds of employees and their families. I contribute more to this city's economy than most people in this courtroom will earn in their lifetimes. So, yes, I ran a red light. Yes, I'll pay the fine. Can we please just process this so I can get back to actual important work? The silence that follows is absolute. Even the court reporter's fingers pause above her keyboard. Victoria has just told an entire courtroom that her work matters more than their time, their safety, their presence, but she's not finished. She looks directly at Judge Caprio, and what she says next will change everything. Victoria's eyes lock onto Judge Caprio with something that looks like pity mixed with contempt. With all due respect, Your Honor, and I mean this genuinely, I don't need a lecture from someone who's never built anything. I create opportunities. I develop properties. I generate wealth and employment. What do? You sit in this box day after day, stamping papers and collecting a government paycheck. You've probably never signed the front of a check in your life, only the back. The courtroom explodes, not with noise, but with the kind of shocked silence that follows a physical blow. The bailiff actually takes a step forward, his hand moving instinctively toward Victoria before he catches himself. The court reporter's mouth falls open. In the gallery, a woman gasps so loudly it echoes. A man in a veteran's cap stands up, his face red with anger. Another person whispers, "She didn't just say that, but she did." Victoria Ashford just told the sitting judge that his life's work means nothing. Judge Frank Caprio's face transforms. The warmth that defines him, the compassion that has made him beloved by millions, vanishes like someone flipped a switch. His eyes, usually gentle and understanding, become hard. His jaw sets. His hands, which had been resting calmly on the bench, now grip its edge. When he speaks, his voice is quiet, but it fills every corner of the courtroom with the weight of absolute authority. "Miss Ashford," each word is measured, controlled. "Did you just tell this court that my service to the law is meaningless?" Victoria doesn't back down. Her success has insulated her for so long that she genuinely doesn't understand the magnitude of her mistake. "I'm saying that you and I operate in different worlds, Your Honor. In my world, results matter. Productivity matters. I can't afford to spend my morning in a courtroom over something that should take 5 minutes to resolve. This isn't personal, it's just reality." Judge Caprio stands. When Judge Frank Caprio stands during a hearing, everyone who knows him understands that something significant is happening. The gallery falls completely silent. Even Victoria seems to sense that the temperature in the room has dropped. "Miss Ashford," the judge's voice is still wrapped in ice, "you have just demonstrated the most profound disrespect for this court that I have witnessed in 38 years on this bench." Before Victoria can respond, a voice comes from the gallery. "Your Honor, may I speak?" Judge Caprio's eyes move to the source. An elderly man in his 70s wearing a military veteran's cap stands with the careful dignity of someone whose body has earned its aches. The judge nods. "Please, sir, state your name." "Robert Chin, Your Honor. United States Army, Korea. I've lived in Providence for 52 years and I need to say something." Judge Caprio gestures for him to continue. Mr. Chin's voice shakes slightly, but not with weakness, with controlled fury. "I sat here and listened to this woman insult you and I can't stay quiet. Your Honor, I've appeared in this courtroom 3 times over the years. Parking violations, nothing serious. Each time you treated me with respect, you listened, you were fair. You understood that I'm on a fixed income and you worked with me." Mr. Chin turns slightly, looking directly at Victoria. "Ma'am, you don't know what you're talking about. Judge Caprio has probably helped more people in this city than your company ever will. He doesn't measure his worth in dollars. He measures it in fairness, in compassion, in making sure that people like me don't get crushed by a system we can barely understand. The fact that you think money makes you better than him shows exactly who you are." The gallery erupts in applause. Not polite applause, but fierce, emphatic clapping. Several people stand. A woman shouts, "Thank you for saying it." Judge Caprio raises his hand and the room quiets immediately, but the energy has shifted. Victoria suddenly looks less confident, her arms uncross. She glances toward the door as if calculating whether she can simply leave. Subscribe to Judge Stories YTY right now if you believe respect for the judiciary is non-negotiable, because what happens next will restore your faith that justice still exists for everyone regardless of their bank balance. Judge Caprio's voice cuts through the tension. "Miss Ashford, I'm going to give you one opportunity to retract your statement and apologize to this court." Victoria's pride wars with her instinct for self-preservation. Her mouth opens, closes, opens again, then she makes her second catastrophic mistake. "Why should I apologize for speaking the truth? You want respect? Respect is earned, Your Honor. And sitting in judgment of people who actually do things doesn't earn it. How much do you make? 80,000 a year, 90. I spend that on a weekend vacation. We are not the same." The courtroom erupts again, but this time Judge Caprio doesn't quiet them immediately. He lets the wave of disapproval wash over Victoria. He lets her hear what the community thinks of her words. When he finally raises his hand for silence, his expression has moved beyond anger into something colder and more dangerous. "Determination. Miss Ashford," he says quietly, "you have just made a choice that will define the rest of this hearing. I'm now going to review your case with the thoroughness it deserves. Bailiff, please ensure Miss Ashford remains in this courtroom." We are going to examine exactly who Victoria Ashford is and what she truly represents. The judge sits back down and begins pulling documents from the file. And Victoria Ashford, for the first time in years, realizes that her money might not be enough to save her. Judge Caprio opens the expanded file that the prosecutor has placed before him, his reading glasses perched on his nose as he examines page after page with deliberate care. "Miss Ashford, let's discuss the details of this violation more thoroughly, shall we? The traffic camera footage has been pulled. Bailiff, please display it on the monitor." The screen flickers to life and the courtroom watches as a silver Mercedes speeds through a red light. The timestamp reads 3:15 p.m. The location is clear, Benefit Street at Hope, directly in front of Vartan Gregorian Elementary School. The video plays in real time first. Cars are stopped at the light, children are visible on the sidewalk, backpacks bobbing. A crossing guard in a bright yellow vest stands at the crosswalk, her stop sign raised, the light is clearly red, and Victoria's Mercedes barrels through without even slowing down. An elderly man halfway across the crosswalk jerks backwards so violently he nearly falls. The crossing guard lunges forward, grabbing his arm to steady him while simultaneously throwing her other arm out to stop two children who had started to step off the curb behind him. Judge Caprio's voice is measured but hard. Miss Ashford, that crossing guard is Rebecca Martinez. She's been serving that post for 12 years. The elderly man you nearly struck is 76-year-old Thomas Wu, a retired postal worker. Those two children she pulled back, one is her 8-year-old daughter, the other is her nephew who has cerebral palsy and cannot move quickly. If Mrs. Martinez hadn't reacted in that split second, we might be having a very different conversation today in a very different kind of courtroom. Victoria's face has gone pale, but she tries to maintain her composure. Your Honor, I couldn't see them clearly. The sun was in my eyes. It was a split-second decision. I thought I could make it through the light. Judge Caprio rewinds the footage and plays it again, this time in slow motion. Miss Ashford, the light had been red for 3 full seconds before you entered the intersection. The crossing guard was visible. Her vest is designed to be seen from hundreds of feet away. The children were clearly present, and according to the speed calculation from the camera, you were traveling at 52 miles per hour in a posted 25 miles per hour school zone. The prosecutor stands again. Your Honor, with your permission, Mrs. Martinez is actually here today. She's been waiting to testify. Judge Caprio nods, and a woman in her 40s rises from the gallery. She's wearing her crossing guard uniform, having come directly from her morning shift. She approaches the witness stand with quiet dignity, and after being sworn in, she sits with her hands folded in her lap. Mrs. Martinez, Judge Caprio's voice softens considerably. Please tell the court what happened that day. Rebecca Martinez takes a deep breath. Your Honor, I've been a crossing guard for 12 years. I know that intersection like I know my own home. That day, dismissal time, I had my stop sign up. Mr. Wu was crossing like he does every day. He walks his granddaughter home from school 3 days a week. He was in the crosswalk, clearly visible. The light had been red for several seconds. Her voice strengthens as she continues. I saw the Mercedes coming and something told me it wasn't going to stop. I've learned to read traffic to sense when a driver isn't paying attention. But this wasn't someone not paying attention. This was someone who saw the light and didn't care. Mr. Wu was in the middle of the crosswalk when I realized the car wasn't stopping. I screamed at him to get back. He tried to move, but he has arthritis in his knees. He can't move fast. The car missed him by inches. Inches, Your Honor. She pauses, her eyes glistening. My daughter and my nephew were right behind him. My nephew, Miguel, he has CP. If I hadn't grabbed them both and pulled them back, if Mr. Wu had been 1 second slower, if any single thing had been different, I would have watched children die in front of me. Her voice breaks on the last word. That's what this case is about, not a traffic ticket, not an inconvenience. It's about the fact that someone almost killed people because they were in a hurry. The courtroom is completely silent except for the sound of someone crying quietly in the back row. Judge Caprio waits a moment before speaking. Thank you, Mrs. Martinez. Your testimony is noted. He turns to Victoria, whose face has shifted from pale to flushed. Miss Ashford, you heard Mrs. Martinez. Do you have anything to say? Victoria's voice is tight. I'm sorry she was frightened, but nothing actually happened. Everyone is fine. We're talking about what could have happened, not what did happen. You can't charge me for something that didn't occur. The crossing guard's testimony is emotional, but it doesn't change the facts. I ran a red light. That's the violation. Everything else is speculation and drama. Where are you watching from? Comment your city if you believe endangering children should carry serious consequences, because what Judge Caprio uncovers next will show that Victoria's recklessness extends far beyond one intersection. Judge Caprio's expression darkens further. Miss Ashford, Mrs. Martinez's testimony establishes the severity of your violation, but let's examine your assertion that you contribute so much to this community. Prosecutor, I see you have additional documents. The prosecutor nods and approaches with another folder. Your Honor, when Miss Ashford mentioned her company, I took the liberty of pulling public records. What I found is relevant to her character and to this court's judgment. Judge Caprio opens the new folder and his eyebrows rise. Miss Ashford, your company, Ashford Properties, is currently named in 7 active lawsuits. 3 are from former employees alleging wage theft and unsafe working conditions. 4 are from tenants claiming uninhabitable living conditions, including lack of heat, water damage, and pest infestations. Is this accurate? Victoria's composure finally cracks completely. Those lawsuits are frivolous. Disgruntled employees and tenants looking for payouts. My lawyers are handling them. This has nothing to do with a traffic violation. Judge Caprio closes the folder slowly, deliberately. Miss Ashford, you stood in this courtroom and told me that you contribute to society, that you create opportunities, that you matter more than the laws that govern everyone else. These documents tell a different story, and they tell the story of a woman who exploits the people who work for her and the people who rent from her, who believes that wealth insulates her from accountability. He opens another page. The city building inspector has issued 17 violations across your properties in the past 18 months, 17 including 3 red tag orders for immediate hazards. One of your apartment buildings on Camden Street was found to have non-functioning smoke detectors and 12 units. Another on Waterman Street had exposed electrical wiring. You weren't just negligent, Miss Ashford. You were dangerous, and yet you stand here lecturing me about contribution to society. Victoria's hands tremble as she grips the podium. Those violations were corrected. We fixed everything. The judge's voice rises for the first time. After how long? After how many families lived in danger? After how many complaints were ignored? You have the resources to maintain these properties safely, but you chose profit over people, just like you chose your schedule over the safety of children in that crosswalk. The prosecutor adds, Your Honor, I should also note that Miss Ashford's driver's license shows 2 prior suspensions that were resolved through legal channels. One for accumulation of points, another for failure to appear at a previous hearing. Both were ultimately cleared through her attorney, but the pattern is clear. Victoria snaps. My attorney handles these things because I don't have time to sit in courtrooms all day. That's what lawyers are for. Judge Caprio stands again, and this time his voice fills the courtroom with unmistakable authority. No, Miss Ashford, attorneys exist to represent you, not to exempt you from responsibility. You seem to believe that money is a shield against consequences, that your wealth makes you immune to the rules that govern everyone else, that your time is more valuable than the lives of children, the dignity of your employees, or the safety of your tenants. Today, in this courtroom, you will learn that you are wrong. He picks up his gavel, but doesn't strike it yet. Miss Ashford, the original fine for running a red light in a school zone is $500. However, given the aggravating circumstances, your speed of 52 in a 25-mile-per-hour zone, the near miss with pedestrians, including children, and your complete lack of remorse, I am increasing that fine to the maximum penalty allowed under law, which is $2,500. Victoria's eyes widen. $2,500 for a red light. That's outrageous. I'm not finished, Miss Ashford. The judge's voice cuts through her protest like a blade. Your license is hereby suspended for 6 months. During that time, you will complete an 80-hour community service assignment at Hasbro Children's Hospital, where you will see firsthand what happens to children who aren't as lucky as the ones Mrs. Martinez saved that day. You will also complete a mandatory 40-hour defensive driving course, not online, but in person, where you will sit in a classroom with other drivers and learn what you should have learned decades ago. Furthermore, for your contempt of this court, for your insult to the judicial system, and for your complete disregard for the dignity of these proceedings, I am holding you in contempt of court. That is an additional $1,000 fine. Your total today is $3,500 plus court costs of $450. The judge pauses, letting the numbers sink in. That brings your total to $3,950. Victoria's voice is shrill now, desperate. You can't suspend my license. I need to drive for my business. How am I supposed to get to work? Judge Caprio's response is immediate and cold. The same way millions of people in this city get to work every day, Miss Ashford, public transportation, ride-share services. Perhaps you could even walk occasionally and see the neighborhoods you claim to serve. Your business will survive, your employees will manage, and perhaps in your absence from the driver's seat, the roads will be a little bit safer. But, Your Honor, Victoria tries again, her confidence completely shattered. I'll appeal this. This is excessive. It's punitive. It's not justice. Judge Caprio leans forward, his eyes locked on hers. Justice, Miss Ashford, is exactly what this is. Justice is what happens when someone finally tells you no. When someone finally holds you accountable for treating people as obstacles instead of human beings. You came into this courtroom believing your wealth made you special. You're leaving it understanding that in the eyes of the law you are no different from anyone else, he continues, his voice softening slightly, but losing none of its steel. You ask me what I do, Miss Ashford. I'll tell you. I ensure that for a few hours each day in this room, your bank account means nothing, your properties mean nothing, your self-proclaimed importance means nothing. Here you are simply a citizen who endangered lives and showed contempt for the system that protects us all. Here, you are simply someone who must answer for her choices. That is what I do. And I do it because if we don't, then people like those children at that crosswalk have no protection from people like you. The gavel finally falls, the sound echoing through the absolute silence. Victoria stands frozen, her face a mixture of shock, anger, and something that might finally be the beginning of understanding. The bailiff approaches. Miss Ashford, you'll need to surrender your license to the clerk before you leave today. You are not to operate a motor vehicle for 6 months beginning immediately. Violation of this order will result in criminal charges. As Victoria turns to leave, her expensive heels clicking against the floor, Judge Caprio adds one final statement. Miss Ashford, I hope you use these 6 months wisely. I hope you spend your time at that hospital looking into the faces of injured children and understanding what you almost caused. I hope you spend your hours on the bus or train sitting next to the people whose lives you've never bothered to consider. And I hope that when you appear before me again to show proof of your community service and driving course completion, you come as a different person than the one who walked in here today. Victoria doesn't respond. She walks out of the courtroom with whatever dignity she can salvage, which isn't much. The gallery watches her go, and when the door closes behind her, spontaneous applause erupts. Judge Caprio doesn't stop at this time. He simply nods to Mrs. Martinez, who wipes tears from her eyes, and to Mr. Chin, who salutes him with a trembling hand. Subscribe to Judge Stories YTY if this reminded you that true justice is blind to bank accounts and that courtrooms remain the last place where character counts more than capital. Judge Frank Caprio proved once again that respect cannot be bought, that arrogance has consequences, and that the law exists to protect all of us, especially from those who believe they're above it. This is what happens when entitlement meets absolute justice. This is what happens when someone finally says no to the wealthy and powerful. This is Victoria Ashford's story, and it's a reminder that in Judge Caprio's courtroom and in courtrooms everywhere that still believe in fairness, wealth is no defense against the truth. Hit that like button if you believe our justice system should treat everyone equally. And remember, the next time you're tempted to think rules don't apply to you, there's a courtroom somewhere waiting to teach you otherwise. Compton.